let me take this comment from Obewe Lawrence, who says, PDP messed up, no doubt, but APC has not fared better. How many officials of this government have been accused of corruption? Just last week, it became the turn of the Minister of Communication. I don't know if you saw that letter written by his aide.
Absolutely.
Those are the little pockets of things that we get to hear, here and there.
Let me tell you this. If you change governments 500 times, you will have 500 cases of corruption propping up in all of the governments. The difference lies in how the leadership reacts to these cases of corruption. Do you understand? If Nigerians are waiting for angels to come from heaven, that there will be a government at a point in Nigeria that will descend to Nigeria and there will be no single person accused of corruption, that is utopia. They will wait from now to 1 billion years. It's not going to happen. I hope you know that.
Now, just wondering, how do we talk? I mean, you've talked about how what is different right now is the leadership.
Absolutely.
But then there are questions as to, I mean, when you look at what's going on with the EFCC, for instance, how we still have an acting chair. And it would seem that the president has stubbornly held on to Mr. Magu for the EFCC chairman, but in spite of all the letters that have emanated from the executive, because the letters that part of letters that prevented his being confirmed as EFCC chairman came from the DSS, came from members, which the president has power over. The question is the presidency really coordinated on this fight against corruption?
That's huge credit to the president. People don't even know. That's very huge credit to him. Why do I say so? He just allowed his agencies to do their work. He's not saying that, oh, the DSS is not looking at him, that I'm looking at the president's body language. The president is in support of this, so I have to skew my report to support the president.
So let
me tell you this. Let me finish. The president has a right.
Mr. Keyamo, I'm afraid I have to take you up on that. If you say that the president, he's allowing the DSS do its work, and the DSS comes out to say, this man you have appointed is not fit to be EFCC chair, I mean, shouldn't we be asking the president questions?
No.
Do you take advice then from the people whom you have appointed if really you were allowing them do their jobs and it wasn't about petty politics even going on right under his government?
No, you are missing the point. The president is not bound to take the final advice from your advisors. They can guide you, but you are the commander-in-chief. You can say, well, this evidence you have brought, yes, you have indicted in one or two of these areas. I don't think it is weighty enough for me to still withdraw his appointment. That is your absolute prerogative as the commander-in-chief. But allow them do their work. Allow them bring their reports. Don't skew your reports to favor him because I've appointed him. The DSS said, look, on these areas, we discovered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And they made it public. It's huge credit. No government has ever allowed their agencies
just
to work like
before
that.
Mr. Onoja comes
and at the end of the day, he says,
we also see,
I do not see it is weighty enough, but I'll still go ahead
just a moment. We also
it's my discretion
we
to
also
do so.
see, should we say, an infighting between the Attorney General of the Federation, which should be supervising all that is going on in terms of the war against corruption, and the acting EFCC chair. Sometimes these things even come out and they affect the cases which they bring to court. What is going on in that regard?
When people disagree on issues, if there's no disagreement, then government is a conspiracy against the people. If there's no disagreement, then it's not a government, it's a conspiracy. Everybody's like, okay, behind the scene, you have agreed, let's do it this way, and then okay, we are exchanging favors and all of that. People should stand their ground to say this is where I feel. At the end of the day, the hierarchy of who is senior to who and all that, we sort it out.
However,
but people should be allowed to express themselves and take their positions in government. That's what it's all about. The fact that it spills out to the public, it's part of this information age we have these days, that people sneak out information here and there. People leak out letters here and there.
What are your thoughts on his comments, Mr. Onoja?
I don't agree that there's anything to comment. And I'll say why. If you have allowed somebody to do an extensive job, because the DSS, by sheer understanding of its setup, we should assume that they did an extensive job. The result of that job is something that you have to accept. If you're not willing to accept it, if you're willing to waive criticisms or indictments of people who work in your government, criticisms and indictment that came from within your government, it only proves the point that you're willing to have sacred cows. And so, if anybody says anything about this one, well, he's a sacred cow, so I'm going to let him go. Now, it would have been different if if the indictment came from outside of the government. Say, if it came from within, say, for instance, within the PDP, you could probably say, yeah, they were trying to be political, right? But your government says a member of your government is corrupt and is unfit to hold public office. Now, if you are not going to say that you have sacred cows and people who you're willing to protect, you must take the advice of your own government. It's one of two things. It's either you say to the DSS, you've done a shoddy job and this job is unacceptable, and so somebody has to bear the consequences of being incompetent. You're not doing anything about the DSS, which means if the report is wrong, you're tolerating incompetence, one. Two, if the report is right, if you keep someone in the office, what you're accepting is that your administration has indicted a member of your administration, and you're willing to tolerate it because that person is a sacred cow. I'd like to say something very quickly before we go back. Now, Leonard SAN kept referring to cases that were instituted since 2007.
No, that's a separate issue.
I want to go there.
We're going to get to that. I need to ask the senior advocate about what you've just said. People talk about the sacred cow issue, of course. Now, I want to ask you very specifically, when, by the president's own admission in Benue State, he made it very clear that, look, I'm loyal to my subordinates, that he believes in being loyal to those who work for him. Some people have said, well, look, that could be a cardinal weakness, because by the admission of even the senior advisor to the president on media, Femi Adesina, on this program, he said, look, Mr. President is somebody who likes to entrust responsibilities to people, and he just trusts them to do what is right. In the peculiarities of our environment, is that not dangerous, particularly in view of what happened with the NHIS executive secretary, who's being investigated by the EFCC, and before the conclusion of the investigation is reinstated to office despite mounting evidence against him? What are your thoughts about all of that?
You see, at the end of the day, it is only the court of law that the president is bound to obey, a judgment of the court of law. By law, by the Constitution, the president is not bound to obey advice. Its advice is what it is. It's advice. Advice is not a judgment of a court of law. The DSS also is not a court of law. And the Supreme Court has said over and over again that it's only a court of law that can indict somebody. So a report of the DSS is not an indictment, if you want to know that. It's not an indictment. It remains what it is, an advice. And the president, like I said, that is why he's commander-in-chief. If the president, like my brother here said, is bound, he used the word bound to take the advice of his advisors, then you just make the DSS man the commander-in-chief. You just make him, then you cede your powers to him and say the DSS has decided, and so as such, I must take it.
But, Senior
I
Advocate,
am the commander-in-chief.